The question, I think, starts with what happens in our brains when we're just gambling. So first, a lot of research has looked at healthy individuals who do not have a gambling addiction and just try to get a sense of what happens in their brains when they gamble. And what we're beginning to show is that the same part of the brain that controls pleasure and reward, that same part of the brain responds to gambling, not just the act of gambling, but money. So just showing money oftentimes excites people and gets their neurocircuitry going. When we're exposed to cues like money, sex, steak dinners, that part of the brain starts firing off and releasing all sorts of neurochemicals, the predominant one being dopamine. And dopamine then floats around in the brain and triggers and activates all sorts of other regions of our brains that gets our attention, that gets our memory going, that gets us excited, our adrenaline flowing. And so that's really what's happening.
But why is it that some of us can play and win or lose and then just walk away, while others become addicted? The answer is in your brain.
And there's a part of the brain that's deep inside the brain called the nucleus accumbens that's responsible for reward processing.
Dr. Stephen Strakowski is director of psychiatry at UC Health. He says addictions may develop because of deficiencies in this reward center.
Gambling, video games, the internet all activate these same parts of the brain that launch something called dopamine into the nucleus accumbens that tells your brain this is potentially rewarding.
I mean, this is your expertise, the function of the brain.
What exactly the brain looks like in someone who has addiction, who's going through this, is a pretty remarkable thing. And I think it gives us a lot of insight into how it should best be treated and to also understand it. That's what I'm trying to do here. And I want to explain a couple of things quickly. First of all, this idea that someone has some sort of anticipation of taking a substance, that's sort of the first step. But then there are two important steps after that in the brain. And stick with me here. So imagine, for example, as you take a look at this animation I'm about to show you, that someone takes a drug of some sort. What happens there, and this is the middle of the brain, is that there is a sense of euphoria. That's dopamine there, those small little particles. That makes you feel good.
Is it any kind of drug? I mean, we're talking everything from cocaine to Xanax.
Yeah,
anything.
Just about any kind of drug, and not even drugs necessarily. It can be other things too, certain food substances. Sugar, for example, there can be a certain addiction quality. But I think what's important is the next step. So you have that euphoria, but in someone who's a true addict, take a look at this picture here. On the left side of the brain is, you see the bright areas? That's still feeling good. That's the euphoria. But on the right side is someone who has an addiction now, not as much of that bright spot, and that is relevant. Why? Because they need more and more of the substance to try and get that euphoria back. Think about that for a second. You take the substance, you feel good, but in an addict, that good feeling doesn't last. So what do? You take more than ever before. And that's sort of the basic, sort of simplistic, but basic form of addiction.
So, how do casinos use science to keep us gambling? A 2010 study in the Journal of Mental Health Addiction found both lights and music created increased arousal effects. And a new study in the Journal of Neuroscience looked at the brains of rats, finding increased arousal increases dopamine reception, one of our brain's powerful reward chemicals. Feeling good means that we spend more, so casinos cash in on dopamine at every turn.
Now think about this in terms of slot machines. So over the long term, everyone loses at the slots, right? They're programmed, depending on the casino and the state, to return somewhere between 75 and 90 cents in the dollar. So nobody wins at the slots. But in the short term, you're getting these surprising squirts of juice, so to speak. Every once in a while, you put in a quarter and you get a bunch of quarters in return. The lights go off, the coins clang. It's a very exciting thing. Your dopamine neurons are titillated. You know, very titillated precisely because it's surprising. And so they generate this large surge of dopamine, try to grab your attention, try to get you to find the pattern that predicts this reward, so that the surprising reward is no longer surprising, so you can maximize, whatever it is you're trying to maximize. But here's the secret of slot machines, is that there is no secret, that there is no pattern to find. Your dopamine neurons, these dumb little cells, they'll never find the thing that predicts the clanging coins and the sirens going off, because it's just a random number generator in the slot machine. There is nothing to predict. But of course, your dopamine neurons don't know that. No one's told them about Las Vegas or Atlantic City or racinos in West Virginia. So they keep on generating these surges. So every time you get a reward, you generate the same surprising squirt of dopamine. It's like getting a surprising squirt of juice. And your dopamine neurons can never adapt.